yeah, you guys just saw the Pyromancer fall down to his knees, and you saw the 2 million damage sticker on the shoulder pad. Guys, I am telling you guys right now, this is the best Viessa build and the only Viessa build you need. I'm calling this the Elsa on steroids. The reason this build is so good is because not only is it good for bossing, it's good for mobbing, it's good for farming, it's good for every single type of content you're doing, and you don't have to change the module. You can just literally leave the modules I'm going to show you guys, and this build will do it all. Now, there are things that we're going to be focusing on before we break down the build. I want to tell you guys exactly what this build is centered around. It's centered around on one of my favorite things, which is spamming abilities. Number 2, getting a lot of crits when you spam those abilities and getting the most out of your character when you actually do that. So if you like how that sounds, let's jump right into the build. So let's start off with the first thing, guys, what you're going to need to do to get this build done. The first thing is, guys, you're going to need to get yourself access to the Blue Beetle. The Blue Beetle, on paper, it doesn't look that interesting, right? It doesn't look like it's going to be doing much. But the reason we want this weapon is we want this weapon because it has a really, really awesome, unique ability, guys, called this one right here, Arcane Wave. Now, what this does is when you're using a fusion skill, it will grant you an ability called Arcane Energy with a set chance. Now, the great thing is that the Arcane Energy set chance is 100%, okay? And the duration of this is for 10 seconds. So what exactly does this do? Well, it gives you a 30% crit rate. Yeah, 30% crit rate. You heard it right. The beautiful thing about this is that it's 100% that it's going to happen. So it's not like one thing, it's not going to happen. It's 100%. And the even better thing about this is that the duration is 10 seconds. So once those 10 seconds are done, you're able to trigger this once again, only by using fusion skills. So it's very important that you understand this fusion skill option, because it's going to be extremely important that you know how to actually proc this every single time. All right, moving along the way, guys, another weapon I recommend is a Thunder Cage, really good for, for mobbing, and the Greg's Reserve, really good for DPSing and mobbing with fire elements. Now, with that being said, let's talk about reactors. So for our reactors, guys, we are running the Forsen. This is pretty much the number 1 that you want to run. So a couple things here. I have a semi-god roll, or a lot of people would call this a god roll, because I have 2 gold stats with shield skill, power boost, and additional skill attack when attacking a Colossus. Now, this is a really, really, really good one. Now, you could theoretically get a better one than this if you guys want to farm this out. I'm personally going to start farming them out as well. But what exactly are you looking for? So the things that you want to change here is you want to keep that additional attack when attacking Colossus. That's going to be huge, especially for bossing. You might want to start, collecting some, especially with the dungeons coming out, with other stats for that one, because that's interchangeable. But what you're looking for here, guys, is anything that boosts either your tech skill, anything that boosts your fusion skill, and anything that boosts your critical damage. So we're looking for something like, for example, this one right here, which I'm going to show you guys, is the same one here. Let's go. So this one that boosts my skill crit damage, definitely a plus. I want that one. Skill hit rate damage, I want that as well. But basically anything that boosts your crits, anything that boosts your super ability, and anything that boosts either toxin or fusion is the way to go here. But that's pretty much would be the god roll, even though I think this is actually pretty good. Now, as far as the components, the external components you want here, is the Slayer set is going to be the number 1 for this one. The reason is because it has 2 really good stuff when you are pretty much have the 4 set completed, all right? When you have all 4 of them. The good thing is that you get a skill cost of plus 15%, and your skill power gets increased by 26%. Now, we won't be getting any of the abilities of Toad, because those are only for other characters that apply Toad. I wish it would just be something general when it's when defeating an enemy inflicted with fusion, recover MP. That would be amazing. Or I would say when defeating an enemy with any ability, receive MP. That would be extremely awesome. But Toad only applies to 2 specific characters right now, unless they change this. The only reason we're using this is we want to get that 26% skill power boost. That's the only reason we're using this. Now, what you want in here this drops with defense, but you want to make sure you're getting mana recovery. So I got MP recovery out of combat, which is a plus for me. I got max HP. Theoretically, the God Roller would be here. For that, it'd be yellow. For this one, for the shield, you want max MP, which is max mana, which is what you want. Max shield. The only thing here is you probably want something better than the consumable drop rate modifier. It drops for something better. Definitely look for that better defense. Better, just better stat, better shield. That would be ideally to give you a little bit more survivability. Then we have the shield. This is max shield. It dropped with a gold on defense. That's the reason I'm rocking this. If this would be gold defense and gold MP recovery modifier, I would so love this. This would be a god roll. And last but not least, we have the processor with the max HP and max shield right here. And basically, we want anything else than equipment drop rate increase modifier. That's good, but you actually want something that's going to benefit the build as far as doing damage. So that is pretty much your gear. Now let's take a look at the Descendant modules, and I'm going to explain why it's extremely important that you understand how this works for all of this to make sense. All right, so this is Viessa, guys. So let's talk a little bit about Viessa so you guys understand why this is extremely important to understand. So she has a passive skill called Eye Sphere, and basically what Eye Sphere does is when you apply this shackle into an enemy, it will create an Eye Sphere that feels near around you. So basically, it gives you like this little protective device, like mini turret with ice that shoots at enemies whenever you apply that ice shackle. Okay, you'll see it a lot in the video. Now, this is the part that you want to understand. So our first active skill here, guys, is the one that we're going to be using the most, which is called Frost Shard. And the great thing about Frost Shard is that this, guys, is a fusion skill. Okay, so remember, we're using the weapon that increases our fusion every 10 seconds, and it gives us that crit every 10 seconds, and it boosts us. That is the reason we're running this. Okay, this is the fusion skill. Next, we have Cold-Bloodedness. Once again, another fusion skill. And this is going to be kind of like the bread and butter of our build, because you're going to see something really, really cool here. Not only, if you're looking at here, I have my build already set up here, but you're going to notice the greatest thing about this one is that the cooldown goes from 25 seconds to almost 8 seconds, actually almost 7.9 seconds, which is really cool. So definitely that's the main reason this build is important, and why this skill is super important. And I'll explain how you want to use this as you progress. Basically, what this is going to allow you to do, it's going to allow you to spam your abilities. Then we have Cold Snap, once again, a fusion skill. So basically, our 3 different sets of stats here will proc with the Blue Beetle that we have equipped, because it is a fusion skill, and anytime we spam these, if we're able to get 3 to 4 of these within 10 seconds, it's going to be proccing that, and then we're going to be getting an ability back. The last skill is this one called Blizzard. This is the one that's going to be doing the most amount of damage for us. But with that being said, this is not a fusion skill. This is a tech skill. That's why I said if you could get a reactor with a boosted tech, that would be amazing, because it would boost your forward skill, which is kind of your damage dealing one, which makes it really, really awesome. Now, how do you actually do this, right? So let me tell you guys exactly the way you want to do this. Whenever you auditionate a fight, you're going to want to activate this Cold-Bloodedness, because what this is going to allow you to do, it's going to allow you to use any of these skills at a lower cost. And I'll explain how that was going to work. I just wanted to explain it within this menu so you could understand that. All right, guys, so let's get started here. First and foremost, guys, we got to get started with what our main skill module is going to be. And that is going to be, we're going to go here, put this Transcendent mods. We have a ton to pick from, but the best one is this one called Cold-Bloodedness. Now, the reason we like using this skill is because, like I mentioned before, is that anytime you use a skill, that number 2 ability, when you use it, it's going to increase your skill power. But the great thing about that, it's going to decrease the skill cost and the skill cooldown. Okay, you're going to get rid of the frost roads, but you are going to be being able to spam your abilities extremely, extremely often, which makes it great. Okay, so that's the main thing here. You want to make sure you get Cold-Bloodedness. The reason being is because this is what's going to allow you guys to spam your abilities. So that's the starter of our build. Now, with that being said, we're going to apply a sub-module. That's so we can start adding more sockets into here. So basically anything that maneuvers or that you're able to move around the enemy, you guys are able to do so. So I personally have long distance. but you're able to use multi-maneuvering. But this one's actually really good because it allows you to get onto the shoulder pads of the enemies fairly quickly. But midair is also pretty viable here. It's just whatever fits your playstyle. Now, you're going to notice that here I have one empty socket, and I'll explain why and how this can be a little bit more effective whenever you're playing or mobbing. And if you want to change it, you can. You don't need to, but that's going to be personal preference, okay? So we're going to get started with how we're going to actually boost our character. The way we're going to be boosting our character is we want to bring the cooldown of our character down to as much as we possibly can to be able to take advantage of these skills very frequent and very often. So we're going to be applying Nimble Fingers, and basically what Nimble Fingers is going to do, it's going to reduce our cooldown of our skill, which is awesome, okay? Because that means we, the more we are able to spam our skill, the better. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to go with MP Conversion. Now, what MP Conversion is going to do, once again, reduce our skill cooldown, but give us the ability of being able to use our skill a little bit more effectively. The only thing is that we get a max MP -15 on this one, okay? Just keep that in mind. The next one we're going to be adding here, guys, is we're going to be adding one called Focus to Shield. Now, Focus to Shield, what this is going to allow us to do here is that this is going to pretty much increase our skill power, our chill skill power, but it's also going to allow us to bring that skill cooldown really good. The main thing we're using this one is just to boost our abilities even further, okay? So now that we kind of sort of have our skill cooldowns here, right now what we need to do is get our crit damage a little bit higher, because remember, we're using the power of the Blue Beetle to be able to increase our, our crits. So we're going to go here, we're going to add front lines, we're going to put it right here, and front lines, what it's going to do, it's going to increase our crit hit damage, and it's also going to increase our crit hit rate, which is going to increase the amount of times we're able to actually proc this. Then we're going to go to emergency measures here, which will be able to not only increase, once again, our crit rate, but also increase our crit hit damage to 27%. So you guys see that these are kind of holding hands together. They're like, okay, cool, let's be friends, right? They coincide really, really well. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to skill concentration here. Let's see. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to be able, okay, to increase our skill crit hit damage by 150%. So, crit hit damage, crit hit rate, and now we got hit crit damage. So these two are going together. What this is going to allow us to do is to proc it more often. Now, if that wasn't enough, we're also going to bring here the one that's going to help us even further to get our crit here more higher, which is going to increase our crit rate to 115. So what we're doing here is we're increasing our damage by 115%, and we're increasing our crit rate by 115, tying these two together, allowing them to coincide and work hand by hand, which is awesome, okay? And next we're going to do is we got to get a little bit of health, a little bit of defense, right? And what that's going to do, what we're going to be able to do with this is we are going to be able to do this by applying this called Battle of Stamina. What Battle of Stamina is going to do, it's going to increase our max HP to plus 122, which is awesome because we theoretically don't need any more defense apart from this. I mean, I hardly ever die with this build. I'm killing things so fast that they're not even able to survive or stand up. And as you guys saw there with the Pyromancer, you guys saw what we did there. We weren't even dying. Okay, so, and it's going to give us a skill duration, so it's going to let us keep our skills active more often, which is really, really cool. Nice little bonus we have right there. Now, on top of this, guys, we have another one that we're adding, which is going to be called Skill Expansion. Now, what this is going to do, it's going to allow every ability that we have to be able to be expanded here. Hold on. Did I not get this? So, this is called Skill Expansion. What this is going to do, it's going to increase the effective range of our skill. The great thing about this is whenever you shoot any boss, if you shoot him in the chest, it's going to hit both shoulders, which is really awesome. In addition to that, when you throw your tornado, like I like to call it, or this one right here, your blizzard, it's going to expand so much, it's going to clear a whole entire room, and that's going to allow you guys to be able to just clear things really fast. A lot of people tend to not like this, but I feel like that this is the way to go, because the faster you're killing stuff and the more ads you're killing, the less damage you're going to be taking. If you learn how to play, you're not going to be dying with this one, which is the one that You know, a lot of people sometimes don't go with this one, but this is the one I recommend, and I think this will be extremely well for you guys. The next, guys, is we have an empty slot. Now, the reason why we have an empty slot is because this particular skill is really, really helpful when you're bossing. It's still pretty helpful when you're not bossing as well, but you got to understand it, and that's why I kind of left it out in the open here. So this is called Dangerous Ambush, okay? Now, the thing with Dangerous Ambush is that this skill only is effective, and people don't understand this, when the enemy target is not pretty much targeting you or when it's immobilized. Now, when this actually procs the most is when you're fighting bosses and they go down on their knees. This is when this actually procs. That's why it's extremely important that when you throw your Blizzard, you throw them down at a knock stage, because this will proc with it, right? So what this is going to do, it's going to allow that 40% to proc, which is awesome. And this is really effective when you're fighting other enemies, because you could theoretically throw your Blizzard and just kind of just let them be, and they're not going to be targeting you to get that extra 20%. Now, if you guys feel like you're not going to use this one, I want to suggest one that's really, really good. This is called Amplification Control. What this is going to allow you to do, apparently you're not going to be able to use a 15 slot. You're going to be able to have it at 12. But what this is going to let you do, it's going to increase the range of your Blizzard, all right? So it's going to increase the range of this, of everything, even further than this thing, right? Because it's going to give you 92% plus an additional 51%. Well, I mean, that if it's 12, it's probably going to be like 40%. But it's also going to give you more shield, which will make you a little bit more tanky if you feel like, you know, you're a little bit squishy. But I've been playing with this build for quite a long time now. I haven't had any single problem with this build, and I'm able to survive, do any high-end content, as you guys are watching in the video, to be able to do as much damage as I can with the Viessa. So I'm telling you guys right now, the reason I make these type of builds is because I want to give you guys builds that not only are good for one thing, but are good for everything. And especially now with the new edition of Dungeons coming out, I feel this build is going to knock it out of the park. Don't forget, guys, if you want to see more awesome builds, make sure you guys keep it locked on this channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.